One of the things I love about the one rental at a time community, and it's the channel has grown, is we're getting more and more experts reaching out saying, "Hey, I'd love to share with you our story." I get about 100 requests a week, and I only take one or two. One of them that I've taken, and I think it'd be very interesting just to learn more, is PadSplit. We've got the founder and CEO, Atticus, with us this morning. How you doing, Atticus?
I'm doing great. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, why don't you just tell us your vision for PadSplit? How to get started, where it's at today, and if you can, sprinkle in some little goodness about where it's going.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the vision is hopefully something all 140 of our staff have memorized. And that is to create a world-class marketplace that enables the fastest, most effective solutions for the affordable housing shortage for low-income earners. And what that really means is we're effectively recreating Airbnb, but for workforce housing. It started. I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years and really cut my teeth on the ground. I bought and managed about 550 rentals between 2008 and 2012, and through that experience, just really got to understand the customer needs and also was forced to acknowledge that my previous notions that people who were working full time in this country could afford a place to live, and recognize that unfortunately that was not at all the case, and wanted to do something about it. So I started experimenting with rent by the room in 2009, and recognized in comparing my P&Ls across asset classes, single family rentals, multifamily rentals, commercial, even buying some loans over the next 7 years, that this absolutely, from a returns perspective, rent by the room just beat the pants off of everything else. The problem was it was very operationally intensive.
Yeah.
And so in really late 2016, early 2017, I wrote a white paper for an ideas competition that was trying to solve the affordable housing shortage. That, hey, look, if you really want to get serious about this, here's how you do it. And you take this concept that was Airbnb as a marketplace, how they had created 6 million vacation rentals over an 8-year period, and you take that same thing and apply it to rent by the room, which was both more affordable and significantly more profitable. And then we would be this service that could take the work out of things that either real estate investors or landlords didn't want to do or couldn't do on their own.
Wow. So again, I like them. I like the notion. Obviously, you know this, but we'll just put it on record, right? Affordability has very rarely ever been this bad.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of kind of need for workforce housing. Unfortunately, it's not being fixed by kind of the standard process. We're seeing builders, frankly, not build it and now pulling back because rates
Sure.
are so high. Um, we have a lot of kind of government help, which always seems to end up on the demand side, not the supply side, which is bonkers, but I guess easier. So, when you take this white paper and this vision in your experience and you go rent by the room, um, how do you operationalize that? Because I kind of get the marketplace, right? Okay, you
Yeah.
take a house, you put it on, you count the bedrooms, the bathrooms, you kind of rent it. Frankly, that's easy for me to understand. But now you've got four strangers. You probably have an owner that may be in town, maybe out of state, because I'm sure this plays for all kinds of landlords. How do you do the hard stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. So for us as a business and as a marketplace, really we provide tools, information, and incentives.
Mm,
And if we have the incentive for a real estate investor who theoretically is motivated by the bottom line to make more money, then the question is, how do you enable that
okay.
happening?
Mhm.
Uh, and we provide inside of PadSplit really three distinct services. One is demand generation marketing, getting anyone who is in the market to rent a room
Mhm.
through the application funnel and into that room very, very quickly. So they're applying, they get approved within minutes. It's as easy as booking an Airbnb, but we're still doing the background check, income verification, identity verification, even using biometric scanning to make sure that the person who's applying is the person who's moving in. And then they can move in within 48 hours. So that's That's one bucket of services. The second bucket of services is the way that we can take a relatively low income or income challenged population with low credit, no credit, and help them perform at an effective collections rate north of 97% on a consistent basis. Is we match the all-inclusive bill, which includes utilities, Wi-Fi, furniture, et cetera, to their payday. So the day that they actually get paid, or you pick an individual day of the week. So like I have no idea as I sit here today what day of the week November 1st falls on, but the entire rental industry assumes that your tenant living paycheck to paycheck is going to budget 7 different bills around that. And I saw a lot of people who got evicted over the years because they paid their cable television bill first, because that was the person who was calling them. And so what we do is bill by the week or customize per payday, and it's one bill. So it's much easier to budget. Of course, it's easier for them to prioritize. But that also means that if you have, like this house right here was the first PadSplit prototype over my right shoulder, and there are 6 people who live there. I have the guy in this room right there has been there since the beginning, since 2017, and has never moved. But with 6 people paying weekly, that means I'm collecting north of 25 payments per month. Well, keeping up with each of those payments, and then if someone misses a payment or changes jobs and needs to reschedule that payment, like that becomes very onerous very quickly. And when you talk about a real estate investor who wants to have 10 of these things, it just is a tremendous workload. So that's the second bucket of services. And then the third bucket of services falls loosely into resident management and technology tools. So how do you make sure that people inside the home are incentivized to behave the way that we all want them to behave? And what do you do when you run into issues like Susie stole my peanut butter, Johnny's playing his music too loud, Michael's leaving dirty dishes in the sink all the time, right? And those are things that a lot of traditional landlords or property managers are just not equipped or set up or desirous of taking on. And so we've set up both operational systems and technology to start addressing a lot of those things where residents can communicate and rate each other. Residents have the ability in the most serious cases of resident conflict to be able to transfer easily to other units of the platform. We're the largest co-living marketplace in the U.S. We have over 8,300 units on the platform across the country right now, and just having that as a relief valve is very meaningful as well. And then things like, okay, well now a host can communicate with a resident very quickly and easily. They can see the performance of their homes. They can see who's submitting what maintenance requests at what time. And process those. So it's a full suite of property management tools as well. So that's really the third bucket, which encompasses quite a lot. But that's what we do.
So what I hear you kind of articulating there is, as a owner of an asset, the house over your right shoulder, for example, I would come to PadSplit and have a menu of opportunities. What maybe it's demand I want, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But in theory, I could select an option that says, hey, yes, I'm the owner, but I'm putting this on the PadSplit platform, and I want to be unknown, other than cast as true. As passive as you can be.
Sure.
That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah. So like as the marketplace, like we fall into those 3 services. What we don't do through the strict marketplace model is like fix the toilet, right? Or we're virtual, so we don't have people on site that are cutting the grass or checking electricity or the smoke detectors or what have you. We do have partners on the property management side where if you live in California and you want to invest in Atlanta or Jacksonville or Tampa or wherever, you can absolutely do that. And we have an affiliated property management group who can fulfill all of your on-site needs. And candidly, there's a full ecosystem of property management partners as well that you can choose from.
Very, very cool. Well, then you talk about having 8,300 units. It sounds like it's got to be growing given the housing needs. But given 8,300 units, and I think it's like 134 million, houses. I'm going to assume there's some geographical coverage, places you are, places you aren't, at least yet.
Sure.
Is this kind of big city, kind of the Big Ten, or what are we talking?
Yeah, I mean, can be anywhere. We have 13 major markets, but we can service anyone anywhere.
Hmm.
Our management strategy is that the people who are closest to the problems are the most equipped to solve them. And so, how do we empower those individuals who understand their local markets better than anyone, and who see, okay, I have a need for affordable housing in my community because there is I don't know, a manufacturing plant nearby and no homes that those workers can live in, or it's a college town, or like whatever that local demand driver might be. The people who are on the ground, like those real estate investors or even just opportunity seekers in those communities, understand better than anyone what that is. And so our job is, how do we empower those individuals with the tools, information, incentives to go solve the problems in their local community? And those people can absolutely still leverage PadSplit to address those needs. But yeah, I mean, like I know a lot about the Atlanta real estate market. I know nothing about the Seattle real estate market, for instance. And so we're driven by interest from hosts. Sounds like you might be the same, right? Is when people call you, want to be in your podcast, same thing. I mean, when people reach out to us or say, hey, I see a need for PadSplit and this set of tools and services in my community, and here's how I think I can benefit from those tools and services. That's ultimately what how we grow and where we expand.
So if you are, somebody that watches one rental at a time, it's really tough to get positive yield, positive carry today. PadSplit, rent by the room is obviously a way to increase income. Is it simply bedroom, bathroom counts is what you're doing, or do you get really aggressive and, hey, we're going to go put in bunk beds and really get after this thing and get multiple adults in one room and all of that? Or do you kind of tap out at, one per room, or any suggestions there?
Yeah. Yeah. So today it's one per room. That could change in the future, particularly in certain submarkets where conditions are more desperate. And we may at some point in the future just leave that up to the hosts as well to determine, hey, I want to allow multiple people per room. For us, we don't allow more than 4 individuals per bathroom. And so that would be certainly one limiting factor. Today, that means 4 bedrooms per 1 bathroom. It's always recommended to have fewer. And as you might expect, private bathrooms typically have longer tenures, they're higher demand. And so more bathrooms is always better.
Yeah. So we're not counting, living rooms, and, we're not trying to shove as many living human beings, into a house.
Correct.
There are rules and guidelines, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and like, listen, solving the affordable housing shortage is pretty straightforward. You need more supply. You need more housing supply, and then you need to enable access to that supply. And so we address both of those problems. But as we are looking at the supply problem, well, guess what? We have more residential square footage today than in the US than we have at any point in history. So it's not that the supply doesn't exist. It's not that you have to build more. It's that the homes that we have now are just much bigger than they were 50 years ago.
Correct.
And how do we get smarter about converting some of those really large houses? And so in some cases, it does mean, well, look, I've got a living room, a den, and a family room, and a home office all in the same house. Okay, well, at a point in time when you've got people living on the streets that are working full time, sometimes 2 jobs, that's just wasteful. And it also creates an opportunity to leverage that space as a housing opportunity for many of those individuals, and to provide better employment savings and ultimately both economic, environmental impact within those communities. And so why wouldn't you do that when you can create a new unit of housing supply for a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 versus building new at 200 to 500 grand. So that's the motivator. But yeah, there's absolutely limitation on what that is. What we tell hosts is, think about moving in, your sister, your mother, your daughter, your grandma, or your mother-in-law. I don't want to make any
Yeah.
judgments about how people feel about their mothers-in-law, but yeah, I mean, think about it from a customer experience perspective, and there's a big difference, right? Don't just look at the numbers on the spreadsheet and think, oh, that extra bedroom really looks attractive to my return. Think about it in terms of what is the best customer experience, and how do I continue to attract high quality residents and encourage them to stay for a long period of time.
Yeah, I don't know if this is still exists post-COVID, but I believe there were some cities or counties that had kind of rules about how many unrelated adults
Sure.
could be housed in a single unit. I'm assuming those are still exist out there. Is that
Yep.
something that PadSplit helps with?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point, and I think just a huge misstep or barrier on the policy side. Uh, Family, a lot of people don't know this. Family is defined not on a national level, although HUD does have a definition that's very inclusive. But but family is typically defined at a local level.
Right.
So you can go across the street into a different city or county, and the number of unrelated people allowed to live together is different. Sometimes it's two, sometimes it's six. Oftentimes, it explicitly includes domestic servants as part of the family, which is crazy.
Mm.
And so there, in our opinion, are some very clear violations of fair housing law, where Fair Housing Act of 1968 and familial status as a protected class was originally put in place to protect families and children. But right now, it's absolutely, a lot of these laws are discriminating against single person households, which are the largest subset of the American population at 31% of all households. And so there are absolutely some federal laws and also constitutional protections, freedom of association under the First Amendment. And so we fight a lot of those battles. And our structure is such that we fit under the definition of family in every jurisdiction that we're operating in. And usually that's because the definition of person is not defined at a local level. That's at a statewide basis in 47 out of 50 states. So it gets pretty convoluted. But when a person is inclusive of a corporation, and I come to you as a landlord and say, okay, well, you can rent to a single purpose entity, and so your agreement is only ever with one person under the PadSplit model, and then those individual residents can become members of that corporation through separate operating agreements. And so that's one of the ways that we address the issue today. And yeah, TLDR, we fight a lot of battles when needed, and we think that there's no question about the righteousness of the cause, and just the fact that when
You mean there's regulation that's not helping? Shocking. I'm
yeah.
shocked, Atticus. Come on,
Yeah,
I'm shocked.
right. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I had a conversation with a head of code enforcement once about, so you mean to tell me that I can have one tenant and 27 domestic servants in that same house, but you think I can't have 6 unrelated people? So I can have 28 people with 27 domestic servants, or no more than six unrelated people. And he's thinking about it, and he's like, I think that's what I'm saying. But it's beyond the pale for sure.
Yeah. But that's, again, I mean, if you're going to get into this and you happen to be in one of those areas, because again, there's a lot of states and cities that are, they have aggressive code enforcements, right? Once you're a
Yep.
landlord, you get to know them.
Yep.
It could be a conversation. And do you have some education material or whatnot, so
We
folks can get
do.
more comfortable with that?
We do, yeah. And as you might imagine, I mean, one of the first things that we did as a company was hire a legal team on staff. And so we have a lot of those conversations with those different cities. And we'll absolutely take up the mantle for a lot of those hosts when necessary and called for.
So
But
let me just ask to make sure I understood that. So let's say I put one of my Fresno properties on PadSplit. I get a code enforcement letter because there's, 6 or 7 people living there, whatever the number is. I call you or reach out to you somehow and say, hey, here's a code enforcement letter. Here's a name and number.
yeah,
You battle that for me?
Well, it depends on the case, but we have historically in many of those cases. It's not a blanket. We'll do this for everyone, of course. When people are adding a lot of rooms and maybe didn't get the permits that they were supposed to get, those are a lot more challenging. In every case, though, we can give you some guidance on how to address that. And if it's one of those cases where, yeah, like you absolutely checked your boxes, did what you were supposed to do on the building and safety side, yeah, we'll certainly take up the zoning cases in most of those.
Very, very cool. This has been a lot of fun. There's a lot more we could be talking about. If somebody's intrigued by PadSplit, where should we send them to learn more?
Just the website, padsplit.com. And we have a whole team of account execs that can handhold anyone through the process.
All righty, folks. Let me know what you think. We all will know that affordable housing, workforce housing is a huge need and getting more desperate, more of a need. Let me know what you think. Leave comments below. Let me know what questions I should have asked Atticus, and maybe we will do this again. Atticus, any closing thoughts?
One room at a time. That's the only way we address this. I think if you want to solve any problem, ultimately you got to be willing to do something about it. And so, really, just excited and honored by the hundreds of folks that have. And listen, I mean, we've had a ton of life-changing impacts, both for our residents and for some of our hosts. And we really think that housing can be a vehicle for financial empowerment on all sides. And we like doing the right thing.
There you go. I got to tell you, one rental at a time approves one room at a time. I like it's that easy. Atticus, thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. See ya.
All right.